an ambitious plan. So the Institutum would be the main institute with these satellite laboratories stretching out all over Ohio. Now the question was, who could direct such an ambitious plan? George Sperti accepted the title of director of this most prestigious graduate school, the Institutum di Tomei. Now, and he was affiliated with this great school for the next 50 years. He was director, professor, fundraiser, benefactor. He poured millions of dollars of his own money into this school, and he was the driving force behind it. This school and his quest for cancer were his lifelong ambition. And the school, because his main goal was to produce scientists who could produce and carry on the work. So again, Dr. Sperti must build the Institutum from the ground up. It started here in the music room. I tell you, struggling at first, of St. Gregory Seminary, and in a few years, the scientists moved to Madison Road, and it would remain here until the school closed in 1988. They purchased these two beautiful mansions. This is the administration building, and then this is the scientific research center. Pretty great. Okay, now, it was a very prestigious and it was very difficult to be accepted. Applicants applied from all over the world. They only took the best of the best. There were 30 students at a time. So while it was funded by the Archdiocese and private benefactors and profits from Dr. Sperti's patents and inventions, it was open to all denominations, races, creeds. One exception, Dr. Sperti would not accept an atheist. Quote, I respect the right of an individual to believe or non-believe as in atheism, but I don't want to work with an atheist because I feel that a man who denies God is not and cannot be a true scientist. He felt guided in his accomplishments by God. He was a sought-after lecturer, and a famous lecture that he gave in Fort Worth, Texas, has science disproven God? And the answer was no, no, and no. And he also had made sure that there were free tickets at that lecture for any struggling scientist who couldn't afford to attend. Okay, he was a devout Catholic who believed that the physical construction of the universe and its operation gave ample and absolute evidence of a creator, and Dr. Sperti found God at the heart of nature. So, the Institutum had a unique teaching technique. Dr. Sperti called it collective research. At the Institutum, each expert would be the teacher of the carefully selected students. More than that, then the students would help work out the research problems. The work of each small class would be available to all the classes, and then any general problem being studied could be attacked simultaneously from the standpoints of whatever branch of science was needed. Dr. Sperti was an excellent professor and could instruct his students so that they understood perfectly how to go about solving the problem. Dr. Sperti was a great fundraiser. He was always writing articles or having his professors write articles to keep the public interested and contributing to the Institutum. He understood the power of the press brilliantly, and he also invited scientists on the cutting edge of new discoveries to come to the Institutum to lecture, keeping everyone informed. And these were usually international scientists who came by. Here's a quote from Dr. Sperti. One's work cannot be just an interest, just a hobby. It must become a part of the individual. Put forth your best effort, strive to accomplish, and in accomplishing, rise above mediocrity. Wow, pretty powerful. Now I feel I'm going to mention 4 of his staff because I just feel that he would want me to. He always wanted his professors to get credit. So these 4 men were colleagues forever. They stayed together at the Institutum, and they also came over from the basic science lab to be with him at the Institutum. Dr. Elton Cook, biochemistry, William A. Beck, plant physiology and biology, John C. Fardon, genetics. He was a brilliant artist. He drew the illustrations that they explained the research through, and also the Reverend Cornelius Jansen, mathematics and biophysics. These men were absolutely brilliant. I think, probably as smart as Dr. Sperti in some cases, but they didn't have that leadership that he had. Now, the staff also included Mildred. Don't forget Mildred. She's with him always. Doctor's secretary at the Institutum. She always kept a steno pad with her. He would get ideas from out of the blue, and she would take them down. Might be 6 months, and they'd go to the idea drawer and retrieve that idea. So she was very important to him. She was dedicated to Dr. Sperti, and he was dedicated to research, to his work. So we should have a picture here of, this is the Archbishop, the Most Reverend John McNicholas. In the middle is Cletus Miller, he's the Dean, and of course, Dr. Sperti. Next we should have Dr. Sperti, the Most Reverend McNicholas, and that man is Charles Miller. He's with Western Southern Life. Now, many discoveries were made at the Institutum. One of the most significant discoveries was Dr. Sperti's discovery of the healing force. Now, all of the great scientists and thinkers, Louis Pasteur for one, knew of this force and wrote about it in their work. To put simply, when injured, as in a cut, our body immediately goes into hyperaction to repair the wound. Well, what if that major healing substance, the substance that really heals the wound, could be isolated? Dr. Sperti was able to isolate the substance which stimulates cell metabolism. Now, I put that simply, it's way more scientifically complicated. He named it biodyne, bio for life, dyne for force. The biodyne speed tissue repair by 50%. It is used in Preperation H, Sperti burn ointment, and Asper cream. It's absolutely, when you think of these three things, think of tissue repair and rejuvenation. It was a brilliant discovery. Now, for the burn ointment, it was used to treat the victims of the Coconut Grove fire of 42. 500 died. It was a horrific fire. The account was just terrible. Dr. Sperti sent, there were many hurt. There were many, and they were burned badly. Dr. Sperti sent all the Institutum had in reserve to treat the victims. He was a great humanitarian. Another account, 7 members of the Royal Canadian Army, they were bombardiers, and they were burned horribly in an explosion in the northernmost part of Canada. Dr. Leo Nutini, he was a physician and professor of experimental medicine, and Professor Binford flew to their bedside to treat them. They boarded the plane with a huge drum of Sperti biodyne ointment. And it was 1 week until Dr. Sperti got word from Dr. Nutini. He said, they're going to be okay, Doc. So I just think that's a wonderful testament to the humanitarian and Dr. Sperti. I brought some. It's off the market now. There's a whole website that talk about, I wish we could get Sperti. I told my husband, you can use this only if you think you might be facing amputation. Otherwise, don't waste that burn ointment. Take it like a man. Just kidding. Okay. This is the, now we've gone to the, this is the Institute in DVT in Palm Beach. It is the Marine Biological Research Laboratory. Wow. The Institute began looking for a location in Florida to study marine cell life as part of its cancer research. On learning this, Colonel Bradley of Lexington, he was a wealthy, thoroughbred farm owner. Dr. Sperti had used his light to enrich feed of the horses, the vitamin enrichment process. So on learning that Dr. Sperti was looking for a location, Colonel Bradley of Lexington donated the Oasis Club to the Institutum. Now, marine cells are larger and can be studied better under the microscope. There are 3 buildings on the property. The first is Bradley Hall. for the Colonel. Donner Hall was donated by a wealthy businessman, Mr. William Donner of Philadelphia. And there was also a third building. So now we have the Institutum's research ship. And this was a floating laboratory. And this yacht was converted into a marine biology research laboratory. Dr. Sperti created a lab right on board. They learned that plant and marine life are best studied in actual living conditions. And so the scientists, could get better results when they studied it right on board. So there they are. There's Dr. Sperti and right on board the Aquina study and research. Okie dokie, medicine man. Can you believe this life? Medicine man. Dr. Sperti was the principal consultant to the War Board in World War II. During this time, the United States, we are really in trouble because we're desperate, because we're in need of agar. The Japanese have a monopoly on the agar supply, and of course we're at war with them, so we can't have any. Agar is used in the diagnosis of disease like malaria, tuberculosis, scarlet fever, and other tropical diseases. It is a gel-like substance extracted from seaweed, and it's very difficult to find. Here, Dr. Sperti is combing the Florida Everglades with Native American Seminole medicine men who know the tropical plants very well in search of agar. The agar that Dr. Sperti produced was far superior to that of the supply Japan held. So he was amazing. Before we go here, I don't have a picture for this, but it's another humanitarian effort. Missionaries in foreign lands were returning to the United States with reports of thousands of natives going blind or with horrible eye infections, eye sores. So Dr. Sperti created vitamins, and they were called the Missionary Tablets. These vitamins consisted of shark liver for the vitamin A, vitamin C from citrus fruits, and other nutrients to take back to the natives. And they called these vitamins Missionary Tablets. So I'm just talking about him and not living him, but I could use a missionary tablet just talking about what he did. Okay, now the Rookwood Pottery, a beautiful building. Cincinnati, everyone knows the Rookwood Pottery. A portion of the pottery was donated to the Institutum in the early 40s, and a research laboratory was set up here. And one of the endeavors that went on was Mary Pickford Vanishing Cream. Now, this campaign failed. Even though iodines were used in the formula, some articles said that Mary had become too old to be the pitch woman. She was really hot in the 20s. But I thought, if you want vanishing cream, you need wrinkles, hello? So Mary's older, so why would she be too old? But that's what an article I read said, that maybe they didn't identify with Mary anymore. But somehow it did go, somehow it just didn't go over. So it was packaged beautifully too in Rookwood jars of light pink and light blue. I would have bought it. I'd bought anything Dr. Sperti said this is good, I'd have bought it. Okay, Mary and Dr. Sperti were friends, and she was a benefactor of the Institutum. I think we have a picture of her. When Dr. Sperti created freeze-dried orange juice concentrate, another of his patents, she came to help with the sales campaign, and 93% of the nutrients were intact with his concentrated process. Now, Dr. Sperti and Mary also created the Society for Aging. At this time, scientists were forced into mandatory retirement. Some had no place to go. They had given their life to their research, and they didn't have any place to go, and now they had to retire. So Mary and Dr. Sperti created Emeritus House in the Palm Beach facility of the Institute.